right off the top, Boy Green. So, in ballparks you've gone to in your life, now you've been there.
I've been to several.
Where does it rate?
Ooh. Well,
you didn't expect this question on a Monday morning coming out of that?
Not,
Let's go. Throw it down.
Okay. So, I've gone to the Yankee Stadium, and Yankees are last.
Okay.
Dead last.
Fine.
So
You're a Red Sox fan. Everybody expects that.
That's not why. But
stop trashing the Yankees at your expense, Red Sox boy.
So Pirates are above the Yankees.
Oh, well, that's nice to know. Good for us.
But, man, Fenway is really special. God,
Fenway is
tough.
the nostalgia, and it's but in terms of the beautification, I don't know if it passes the litmus test on that. Is it aesthetically pleasing to the eye?
To it. I don't
it has
know.
a charm, though. Absolutely, positively. It's in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
But it can't be number 1 just simply because of the Green Monster and charm. I mean, you ever sit in those seats?
Yeah,
My God.
of course.
I mean, you just want to get the heck out of the seat the minute you fix it. And some of the seats, I think, unless they fix this in recent days, are like facing the wrong direction.
Oh,
so
yeah, we had that.
So
where
like
you have to
sitting
turn.
left and looking right, you're like, oh, God. And that's the worst when you're in a packed row.
Sure.
Especially if you're a little girthy guy. I'm not, but some people are. Like banging knees with the person next to you. I remember the seats that I sat in Fenway when I was down low because I've been a few times to Fenway. I don't think I had a cup holder. I don't think there were any cup holders at Fenway.
I can't remember.
Maybe some of the new. I know they've put
now.
in some new seating, and maybe they even have completely redone the seating because it's been a few years for me. And ballparks are always upgrading. Although Fenway likes to keep that charm.
That's true.
But I don't remember cup holders. So the comfort levels, the creature comforts, not there at Fenway.
So. I've been to Fenway Park more than any other baseball park on the planet. I've been, 10 times or something. I don't know. I've been there an ungodly amount of times. So Pittsburgh, with all the history and everything with it, no, it doesn't leapfrog Fenway.
And Fenway also doesn't have any clubs. They don't have the clubs.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, because the baseball it was built a million years ago.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
You would have to build another level,
right,
to put in clubs for all these different sections. We were in the club section.
Yeah,
that was very nice. I felt like I should raise my pinky and sip my champagne with my pinky out.
Which I want to give a special shout out to the Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
What other club could have offered me the routine price of $8.08 for the Coke I got? So thank you,
love it,
club. You gave me that exclusive access.
Fantastic.
To purchase that from inside.
Listen, man, I threw down $10 for a beer bat, man. I mean, come on.
You got a beer bat? That's cool.
You're right. At least I got a souvenir.
A plastic cup.
Well, be smarter, I mean, get a beer Coke or something. They give you a beer to throw some Coke in. They give you a bat to throw some Coke in.
That would have been cooler. But I will tell you this. The part I will tell you is that it lived up to the hype. You've said it. John Bowman has said it. All the baseball aficionados in the world say, oh, PNC Pack. It's this, that, or the other. And to sometimes, Lerch, and you know this, movies, whatever, we build up the hype.
They don't live up to the hype.
We put it up to a pedestal.
It's dangerous.
And then we watch it or experience whatever
it is.
It can be dangerous.
And we're like,
yes, that wasn't it at all.
Yeah.
And
just didn't grab you for some reason.
Right. And Lerch, you're going to love this. You get the credit for it. I was just talking about this on my morning show before this show, earlier this morning on the digital platforms. People were asking about the trip. And I said, me and the younger guys were like, put any seat in the house. We don't give a crap where we're sitting in the stadium. It should just be a fun time.
Guys are just
we don't care about the
just
Pirates.
Go to the game.
We're going to experience it.
If you're going to go once a year, once every blue moon, do it right. Get a seat that's worthy. Think about the night, what's going to happen, and would I be better positioned here, there, or wherever.
So we didn't think of any of that. So as us, so you talked about.
Well, that's what you have me for.
That's right. And I said, me and the boys talking about it. Like, do you guys care? And they're like, no. And I'm like, all right, there it is.
Nobody
Cheapest seats works for me.
Yeah.
But Lerch, you made the executive decision. I don't care what you guys say. We're going to do this, and I will tell you that your executive decision was awesome.
Right.
Seeing the game the entire time, not having to move around, the fireworks show after, it lived up to the hype. Yep. And again, a lot of things in life don't, so I don't want to take that for granted. So it was spectacular. Second best.
You want a minimum amount of interruptions. A quick trip to the bathroom. Oh, the bathroom's right there. You know,
that was convenient.
Oh, it's raining out. Oh, we could just go inside the club. No problem. We got, it didn't rain that night, but if it had,
it rained a little bit, but we powered through.
We powered through. Never went indoors, other than when we had to. The outfield promenade is fantastic too. It's a wonderful browse, and they even had half price beers on Fridays
before the game,
in the pregame. That was very nice. So so I was able to save a little money on my beer from my beer bat.
Yeah, very nice.
Otherwise, that thing would have cost me about a half a buck, somewhere in that world.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice, saving a little money on that. So it's nice to see that ballparks are offering sales from time to time. So kudos to the folks at PNC Park for offering up a sale, dare I say, on Friday nights with the half price,
which is
beers pregame.
It's not like it's a Wednesday.
Correct.
It made more
on a
sense
Friday
to
night.
do something.
Gotta give
Friday
him credit.
Night pregame. There's a
Massive.
ton of people.
there. And it was a packed house.
Yeah.
It was like Little League night. There were a million Little Leagues there. We saw them. They did a little parade on the field, and it was fireworks night. So I mean, it was a very full. The Pirates have not been good as we know this year.
Right.
I mean, Paul Skeens, you got to go see him. And there are some really great young players on the Pirates. Although we missed the compliment. I didn't even get to talk to you about this at the game. But the night we went, Boy Green.
Yeah.
No Brian Reynolds. I don't know. I guess he was resting.
Right.
I have no idea. I don't know everything about
right.
their injury situation.
Yeah.
But Brian Reynolds, but he played the rest of the weekend. So it's like, hey, we missed Brian Reynolds. He's arguably one of their, if not their best player.
We just missed Paul Skeens by a day.
We didn't get Key Brian Hayes, who's another one of their really good players.
No.
We didn't get Skeens, but you only get that every fifth day. I'm just talking about guys in the lineup. I was looking at the Pirates lineup. Let me just jump over there for a second. I was like, where were all these guys the night we were there? Like, no wonder they lost to Jacob deGrom. They didn't have their players. They weren't playing their guys. They were playing all these other guys. So, yeah, let's see. Let me jump into the Pirates game. I'll jump into last night's box score. That'll give me some names that I'm forgetting here. So we had O'Neill and McCutchen. Reynolds didn't play. Gonzalez did play. We didn't have Brian Hayes. We didn't have Tommy Pham, who's another good player for them.
Right.
All right. By the way, yesterday went 3 for 3 with 3 RBIs. Where was he on Friday night? Could have used him.
Yeah.
Could have racked up deGrom.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the Pirates lost 6-2.
Yeah, it wasn't a good ball game per se, at least from the Pirates side of things. Though it was wonderful to see a healthy Jake deGrom pitching very well. He pitched very, very nicely in that game. So that was pretty cool. So I did enjoy that. As a Met fan, even though he's pitching in a darn Rangers jersey. Doesn't really make me too happy. But, he just, So, yeah, we just didn't see the full complement. The Pirates, when you look at their lineup top to bottom with all this young talent in there and some nice vets, they can put together a decent lineup. That night on Friday, man, like everybody was off. Like we got some weird guys in the lineup. Like let me go back to Friday's box here. But the lineup Friday night, I was like, well, I didn't figure I'd know many of these Pirates. And then when Saturday's game happened and I looked at the result and I was like, hey, where were all those guys? Why are they giving guys off on a Friday night? I mean, give them off Thursdays or something, not Friday nights. We had Triolo in the lineup. Well, he's a good player, but we had Triolo, we had Harwitz, we did have Gonzalez, we had Frazier in right field, we had Canario in left. Like we had guys that don't play much that played on Friday night. So it must have been like rookie night or something. Hey, throw some guys out there night. Everybody's taking the night off. We'll put the whole crew here, 3 or 4 guys on the bench, give them all rest so we can bring them back over the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
Why you do that against Jacob deGrom, I'm not so sure. But they did.
Yeah, so the ballpark was awesome.
Ballpark was awesome.
Yeah.
And a quick synopsis here on the city of Pittsburgh. I mean, we toured it quite a bit on Saturday. You did, despite your hesitancy to want to get inside the inclines. Right. You did. You got in that little trolley.
It's the fastest roller coaster in the world. So that was.
I mean, I didn't want to tell you this when we were in the inclines.
What?
But that cable that holds the incline and pulls it up the thing, that's been in operation since 1877. That same cable. No, I'm kidding you. Of course they've replaced that cable. But that is literally, there is a singular gigantic cable that pulls that thing up the hill and down the hill, up the hill and down the hill. I don't even know if it's a hill. It's like going up a cliff, basically.
And as we were waiting in line, Lerch told to me and said, "Did you know 3 people died on this last year?"
Yeah,
and
no,
I
didn't
wow.
say any of that.
And I'm like,
That's
oh my gosh,
I did not say any.
I
of
don't
that.
know. That's
I'll tell you what, though. I was looking through some of your pictures. I saw you posted some pictures on the gram.
I was trying to do some photo dumps.
You did some photo dumps, which is great. I should do a photo dump also. Yeah. Although I'm usually pretty good with pictures, but I think maybe as the tour guide, I was a little negligent in my picture taking. You, I think, took more pictures than me. And that one picture you took in the incline when we were sitting in the front of it, and it was you, and then the incline was behind you, you see the steepness of that.
Yeah.
You know what?
Oh,
I mean, I was like, yada. Woo. Yeah. Woo, glad I didn't look down there. I mean, whoa.
Because I turned back when we were coming up.
That cable snaps. We're done.
Ching, ching, ching. Oh, 100%. and also, I was like the last one to get off. I wanted to be George Costanza, fire! And throw clowns and children and grandmas out of the way. But I ended up being the last one, and I was thinking about that. If this cable just breaks, this thing's falling, I'm dying, but everyone else is getting off this thing. So, that was... you did it. You guys peer pressured me into it. It was a nice little time, and we got to meet a nice young little boy named Roger, and I got to tell all kinds of tattoo stories, and we told all kinds of other stuff. Lerch, you seemed to really enjoy that conversation with the little kid.
I did.
And everything else on the incline. Yeah. So, yeah. It was
the people of Pittsburgh are very nice.
They're nice.
Very friendly people.
The city was beautiful, too.
The city is very receptive. Even, the folks on the street are receptive, as they come over.
More receptive than I would have thought.
So, really nice. Pittsburgh is a really, really nice town. I think they do it well. I think it is, of the cities across America, a highly, highly underrated city.
For sure.
It has been rejuvenated. It has been refurbished. The sports venues are phenomenal, especially the football and baseball stadium, which both sit right on the water, just a couple of thousand yards apart from each other. They have beautiful walking areas. You've got, of course, the bridges, which almost every bridge in Pittsburgh, 452 is the number, right, Boy Green? We were looking at that before the weekend.
452, that's right.
Almost all of them, you can walk over them. Like, they have space. They have car. A lot of them. Some of them are walking bridges only, but the ones that are cars, they have the lane and the guardrail to walk over the bridges.
That is correct.
So they are designed not just for cars, but for people.
Yes.
Okay, to walk over.
And they encourage it, right?
And they encourage it. Bike over, walk over. There are some terrific. We didn't have enough time, but if we had another day or two, you could do a bike tour of Pittsburgh. I mean, and you zipping over this bridge and going over to this spot, and then you're home over here. I mean, fabulous. So Pittsburgh is a terrific city. If anyone that's listening this morning has not been to the city of Pittsburgh, it is the easiest 5-hour drive you'll ever take. It's throughway, and then make a left at Route 79 and just take it right in, and then you go on to 279, which is just an extension of 79, and then you're in the city.
Yeah.
It just comes. I told you how you come around that curve. What was that like? I told you come around the curve, and then boom, the city's like 1,000 yards in front of you. You're like, what the heck? Where'd the city come from?
Right. You were telling me about my picture taking, and I said we were just randomly driving in Pittsburgh. We hadn't reached the city yet, and I said, man, if I took a picture right now and just posted it on the internet and said, hey, where are we? We'd get 1,000
suburban
guesses.
America,
Who
right?
cares?
Somewhere in suburban America,
right? And then all of a sudden, whoop! You make a turn.
You come on a curve, and
booyah,
boom! Yeah.
The city's there, and we cut off immediately because of how the roads worked. So we didn't go into
our
the
exit
city.
Was right before we even had to go into the city.
Correct. But yeah, so Lerch, sometimes when someone sets up a trip and then you have people disappointed coming off it, that did not happen on this trip. So the trip worked out.
Well, let me tell you about
this special week.
Today's show and then this week and what's going on. All right, so for today will probably be the most normal of the 5 shows we do this week. Yes. Bud Poliquin will join us for Brunch with Bud. It'll be a little bit of a special session with Bud because Bud is out of town and he's not going to be able to stop in studio, which is what I was hoping he would do here in the final week. I probably would have scheduled Bud for Friday, but he is out of town. I think he's in Martha's Vineyard. Why wouldn't he be? It's the Jaws.
Reunion.
It's the Jaws 50th anniversary.
I saw that picture.
He's got to be there for that, right?
Yes,
that just happened a few days ago, and he's doing a family reunion. But why not do the family reunion? Around the whole Jaws spectacle, which, in case you didn't know, folks, was filmed mostly in Martha's Vineyard. Okay, so it's a big Jaws spot, and then you throw the Jaws 50th in there, and I'm sure that everybody in that town is watching Jaws over the last week and jumping out of their chairs.
Yeah.
So Bud is out of town, unfortunately. He's you have to pick the one. I'm like, well, I don't schedule this stuff for you, Bud. I schedule it for me. All right. So he's going to join us today at 10:30. So we'll do a little reminiscing with Bud. We'll probably be a little more off the topic.
Sports, what
maybe we'll ask him
weekend.
A question about the NBA Finals,
Perhaps.
which obviously was decided last night, and no surprise, OKC won, but a devastating situation for Indiana.
Game,
with Halliburton hits 3 threes, comes out like gangbusters. Looks like
the game's competitive.
Those couple of days of rest, this guy is back. This could be good. Maybe they're going to steal one here in Game 7.
Devastating.
And then boom, we see the calf muscle pop, just like we've seen it time and time again.
Rodgers, everybody
else.
And
you just know immediately it's the Achilles.
Over.
We talked about it. These guys, they get this strained calf thing.
Yeah.
And they try to play through it. Durant, exact thing. And there's been other examples. And then they play on it at a high level and ba-boom. It's an indication. And maybe all that means, Boy Green, like there might be people out there today saying, why the heck did they play this guy? Of course he wanted to play and there was no way he was going to be denied. So I don't know how the coach would have stopped them, how anybody would have stopped them. And you would need the doctor to say, nope, we'll put you in handcuffs.
Game 7,
you're not allowed to play. Your Achilles is at risk. But they don't know that for sure. There's no way to test for that. All right. But the fact of the matter is, I'm no doctor, so I'm just going to go on logic here, okay? Logic tells me, regardless, that his Achilles was going to go at some point, probably sooner rather than later. So even if you don't play him last night, okay, and you rest him the whole summer and you give him treatment, I think sometime next year his Achilles goes. It just seems like this is like Tommy John. Like, it's inevitable for certain athletes, just probably based on their anatomy and the way they move. So it is what it is. It's heartbreaking. They're not going to have this guy the whole year. Damian Lillard is going to be out the whole year next year. Jason Tatum is likely going to be out the whole year. The East is looking completely different because we've got 3 superstars who likely are not going to play, or if they play, it'll be late in the season, and they'll be coming off an incredibly long layoff. So basketball next year in the East, wow, I mean, it's anybody's race. The Knicks are moving up the rankings here and favorites in the East because of all the injuries around them. But, of course, the Knicks will probably lose somebody to an Achilles or something like that, and then, the playing field will be level once again. So, but a crazy stuff with Halliburton, and they win. All right, back to the show. So, Bud today at 10:30. We'll do our usual brunch with Bud, but we'll do a special edition.
Yes.
And then Sean Deveney will join us. We will talk about this NBA Finals at 11:30. All right, so today, like I said, the most normal show. If you listen to us every day, it'll be just like a typical show for the most part, maybe with a few stories thrown in there. Tomorrow begins kind of our exit theme,
farewell
if you want to call it, our celebration of 23-plus years on the radio. We're going to have a combination of in-studio and phone-in guests through the 4 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And me and Boy Green were working very diligently over the weekend to book people, to figure out who we wanted, to get different perspectives, so on and so forth.
Right.
And so most of our people are locked in, and it's just a matter of a couple more return text messages, and we'll have it locked down rock solid. But here are some of the highlights that are already on the plate, and there are some terrific ones. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., right off the top of the show, Jason Smortle, the GM of the Syracuse Mets, will be in studio. Jason has a long history with the show.
Some
obviously,
people may have forgotten.
He's been on as a guest, for a long, long time, going all the way back to when he was GM of the Doubledays, and where I met Jason originally. And then he was out of the baseball business for a while, and he was a salesperson driving around like salespeople do to a territory. And he was a regular listener of the show and used to send me texts and comment on our social media portals, so on and so forth. So we can talk to Jason as guest. We can talk to Jason as long-time listener, and he's been listening to the show almost since the advent of it.
And Lerch,
all right?
For fans, that's sort of what we're shooting for
here
in the celebration of trying to, give all these different perspectives.
I got a little breaking news for you this morning, Boy Green. And I haven't even told you this yet, but at 10:30 tomorrow.
Justin Fields?
It's not Justin Fields. I think it's better, though. Jim Boeheim will join the show at 10:30 tomorrow, and we'll chat with Jim Boeheim about our exodus from the radio. So Boeheim at 10:30. We haven't had Jim on in a while,
and
so we'll see how he's enjoying reimagined life.
Right, and over my shoulder, Lerch, obviously Jim Boeheim has a very specific history with this program.
He really does. And then, so Boeheim will be on the phone with us. He's not going to be in studio. And then Brian Drake at 11 o'clock. Fantasy football guy extraordinaire, long-time fan of the show. Brian and I worked for many, many years, 15 years, on the Bill Leaf Kickball Tournament together as co-chairs of that. Brian has a great history with the show and some great stories I'm sure he'll share. So Brian's coming in studio at 11 tomorrow. So there's a look at tomorrow,
Tuesday
right?
lineup,
That's the boom, right out of the box. We're coming out with three superstars. Brent Axe is going to join us on Wednesday. Mike Lissette, who spent some time as host in the Manchild
studio, by the way,
is going to join us. Old producer Ty Doyle is scheduled later this week. We'll give you an update on that. Anish Shroff is going to join us. I'm just waiting to lock down the time with Anish, but it'll be later in the week. The Jimmer, Jimmy Morgan, our old producer, update guy. Many of you might remember the Jimmer. Jimmer is going to be scheduled later in the week, too. We think it's going to land on Thursday. And then we've got some other surprises for you on Friday, including on Friday. We'll pre-announce it. We've already been talking about it anyway. But our We Didn't Start the Fire song, it's being recorded. I should have it in my hands by end of business, close of business tomorrow, Boy Green.
Terrific.
And I have a wonderful musician, and I'll give him credit once the project is done. A wonderful local musician and a longtime friend of mine who used to work for me when I was a PD in the old days. Is putting it down on putting it down for us, laying down the track, as they say. All right, so we will have that for Friday's show. So it's going to be a wonderful week, a celebratory week, lots of storytelling, lots of fun stuff. We'll really try to kind of bask, dare I say, in the glow of our last week in AM radio and here at the Score 1260. And I just want to mention off the top, and I'll say this again at the end of the week, I'm sure, in terms of partnerships, in terms of working with people and having the kind of relationship that you want to have in the business world, there has been absolutely, positively none better than the folks right here at Cumulus Media. So I want to thank Beth Coughlin and all the folks who have just made it a pleasure to walk in this studio every single day and to celebrate sports with you guys and to talk about, stories and controversy and glorious moments for as long as we have. It's been a real privilege, and those folks have been a big, big part of it.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you as well to Beth, because this is where my radio career started. 10 years ago, 2015, coming in as an intern on this radio show, and it evolving to everything else it went. When we made a trip to a different station, and then we came back, it just felt right. So Beth Lerch, obviously, welcoming me into the family, and this is going to be an amazing week, Lerch, and a great celebration, as we will reiterate throughout the week, I'm sure, as people are tuning in and out of the show. We're not going away. There will be MC Show Digital. Again, if you guys tuned into that over the weekend, obviously this will be a celebration of a wonderful 23 years for Lerch in the radio business, heading into our 24th year. But we will not be going away. We'll also have that life extended, and we'll be full-time in that specific department starting the week after.
And by the way, BG, I wanted to say this to you as the week begins here, because I know it is going to be your tendency, dare I say, and, you got to make your own judgments. But, what I want to say to you as we start this week is, I know I'm celebrating 23 years of being in the business, and that's a long time.
Yeah,
all right?
Awesome.
But you've been here for 7 or 8 of it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know
10
what
years,
exact.
yeah,
Okay,
10
total if you really talk about it all, right? So 10 years you've been in it, and you're leaving, this venue at this moment too.
True.
So please take the time to celebrate you, to celebrate us, to celebrate the whole show. Don't just leave it up to me, because this is as much you stepping away as me stepping away, and so I want to make sure that we honor that as well. I've been lucky enough, and I'll repeat this, I'm sure, at the end of the week, to have 2 great partners over a 23-plus year career in radio, and they both are completely different, and yet completely and utterly thrilling to have worked with. I mean, Bud, just to give it to you quick, all right?
Please.
So Bud was a great first partner, but all due respect, and we'll have him in a few minutes. I'll gladly repeat this to Bud's face if you want. I gladly will. Okay. But Bud pretty much never lifted a finger for the show, okay? Bud showed up every day.
Sure.
Bud is a phenomenal storyteller, and the show never would have been what it has been all these years without Bud, okay? So all credit to Bud, but Bud never lifted a finger. I mean, that guy, I did everything. I got every guest. I lined up everything. I set up every remote. I mean, he showed up 5 minutes before. I'm sweating. I'm dripping. I've put tables and banners and signs up. And Bud walks in and goes, "Well, we ready to go?" I'm like, "Yeah, 5 minutes. Let me just get a drink of water." He's like, "All right, well, I'll be sitting over here when we're ready."
Let me know when the camera's
from that to all the silliness of the late showing up late, and no regard for showing up to work on time every day.
Sure.
But it was, as much as it was annoying, it was charming as all heck. So, and it kind of just became a staple of the program and never really truly bothered me, in all honesty. Never bothered me.
But it was fun
but I
bothering you on the
understood
show.
what I was dealing with. And Bud was a hired gun. He was clear that that's what it was. He had another full-time job, and it was over there at the newspaper and the website, and that was it.
Yeah, we all understood our roles. Bud,
listen, Jimmy, when we talked about this, it was about me sitting in this chair talking. That's it. I didn't promise anything else. So don't ask me to go to a meeting. Don't ask me to show up early for a remote. Don't ask me to lift a chair. Okay? I'm not doing it.
So Lerch was saying he delivered on his promise.
So Bud, quote, was, for lack of a better term, a diva. And it's okay.
Oh, wow.
Because, it's nice to work with Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston or Aretha Franklin or pick your favorite diva out there.
It sounds like it.
All right? So Bud was a diva. And that's fine, because there was a charm in working with a diva. All right? And I was the nuts and bolts guy. And then Bud leaves. He retires. He reimagines. Okay? Yeah. And he goes away. And I'm wondering, really, because I had said to many people over the years, I don't know if I'll continue to do this.
When he goes, you'll go.
When Bud ends. I know he's going to go before me. He's older than I am, and he is. He's going to go before me.
Right.
But I might just go with him. It just, I never imagined doing it for 16-plus years with him. And isn't that a long enough run? Isn't that good enough? Can I find something else to do?
Yeah.
But then he tells me that he's going to walk, and I'm like, I'm not ready. It just was like that. You go home, you kind of sit in the rocker, and you go,
you either know or you don't know.
It's not my time. I'm not ready yet. Yeah. I have more to offer. I still love doing this. I'm not ready. Mm-hmm. And so after he tells me, when do you want to do it? Okay, can you give me a month so I can maybe find somebody? I don't want to do the one-man show. Hate the one-man show. Yeah. So let me try and find somebody. Can you give me a month? Oh, yeah, sure. Do a month. Sounds good. All right. So a month it was. And then we come back in here the next day, and I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Who's the right person?
And there's Paul Esden Jr. just sitting in the corner. He's our producer. He's kind of in the corner of the room, and I'm like, what about that kid over there, he's in my class. He was pretty good when he did that talk radio segment, in my class. I even complimented on it after class. I mean, he's a little bit of an unusual, quirky dude, but
very weird.
Very different from Bud, but that's all right. I mean, evolution is a part of life, right? I evolve. I got a new partner. He evolves. Sure. I teach him the ropes. Think about it. It could work. So, I stew on it for another day and then come in the next day and I'm like, hey, Paul, So I got the bad news here that Bud is retiring or reimagining his life.
Yeah, right.
And I need a guy to work with. Are you available? And, of course, you were like, yes. So, again, the rest is history. But it's so amazing, just to go back to the original point of the story, the dichotomy between you two guys.
Yeah.
Because not only are your strengths in different places in terms of sport analysis and that kind of thing, age, you name it, just completely two completely different human beings. But you, as Bud departs, and now I kind of, have a different role, you become the guy that does everything behind the scenes. And I become, for lack of a better way of saying it, I hope you never compare me to Bud, but kind of like
diva?
Bud. I don't want to say I was a diva because I will pick up tables. I will get my hands dirty. I did not have the same, dare I say, rules that Bud had. But there's no question that without even asking, you just said, hey, I'm already the producer, so I'm just going to keep being the producer. I'm going to keep carrying the torch here, and, I'm just going to take this crap over. And you did. And I'm forever grateful. I mean, because with all the other things that I do, many people that listen to the show know that I teach and I do other things outside. It's just hard to stay on top of all this stuff when you're juggling so many balls. And so you picked up those balls and grabbed it. You grabbed the bull by the horns, as they say.
Yeah, right.
All right, for another bad pun. And it was marvelous, and it has been marvelous, and it's a marvelous partnership in a completely different way, which is amazing. How do you go through life, have two partnerships with two different guys who are almost polar opposites, and yet have great success with both, and walk away feeling like, fantastic. This has been a fantastic ride.
And I want to, can I give a shout-out here, Lerch, a special honor?
Quickly you can.
Okay. I want to thank the one-day retirement I had, Lerch. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
Where I got to sit in your chair for one day.
Oh, God, yes, I do. Yes.
At the beginning of the show. It was the greatest moment of my life. The Manchild Show with Boy Green. Me and you switched roles. You jumped over to the side of the table.
I'm going to sit. I said, let's try this. I'll sit in Bud's chair. You sit in my chair.
Sitting in the shoes you said would help, you thought, of switching roles. Freaky Friday.
That, I'm maybe going to have to be a little bit more the storyteller and the Bud, which I'm okay with.
Of course.
And maybe you're going to kind of be the nuts and bolts, host it, move us from segment to segment, line up the guests, tell people what's going on.
You're the color analyst. You're the,
all right, I'm play-by-play.
Yeah.
I'm done with my play-by-play. I'm stepping over to color.
We're switching roles.
That's exactly the way I envisioned it.
Yes.
And
day one, I'm like, okay, beep, boop, boop. We end the show,
disaster.
And Lerch turns to me, says, never again. I'm like, what? Never again. We're switching back. I can't do it. I was squirming over here in the chair the entire time.
Oh
hate it. It's over.
God, did I hate it.
And so I want to honor, people may have forgotten, my one-day retirement of sitting in the chair. Sometimes you're like, do you get a chance to sit in someone else's chair, be in someone else's shoes? What does it feel like? I felt that for one day, and what a journey it was.
That is amazing how in just a singular show that I was so emphatic. Like, there is the moment that we went, okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Boom.
Boop.
Bye.
You immediately turned to me.
Paul, can't do this. I don't know what I was thinking. This was the stupidest thing I ever said to
disaster.
You. Tomorrow, please.
Switch.
Get back. Can we go back, please? I can't do this. I can't do this. I'll go nuts. You'll see me squirming every day.
You did.
I can't do it. I can't sit over there. I need to push the buttons. I need to be in control. Maybe I'm a little bit of a radio control freak in some way. I don't know what's wrong with me. All I can say is that didn't feel good. And this feels like home. And it has for 23-plus years over the course of a couple of different studios, but mostly here in our little beautiful closet that was once the Syracuse Security Studios, all right?
Yeah.
And thank those folks, too. So fantastic stuff. All right, look, I don't want to be way late for Bud, and we already are going to be. Yeah. Too bad. But he's in Martha's Vineyard,
That's
true. Who knows, laying on some beach. So I don't
somewhere?
care that we're going to be late to Bud. But Bud's up next. Sean Deveney at 11:30. We got a great show for you today, and it's going to be a great week. You don't want to miss a single minute of it. So please hang around with us this whole week. It's our final week on the radio, and we are going to have a grand old time, as they say.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, 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 it's Bud and the Man-Child. 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 Bringing you the best in sports, talking about the ups and downs. Take it to a higher level, turn up the sound. Hey, 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 it's Bud and the Man-Child. Hey, 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 it's Bud and the Man-Child. Hey, 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 it's Bud and the Man-Child. Hey, 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 it's Bud and the Man-Child.
All right, time to bring in my old partner, the one, the only reimagined, Mr. Arthur Bud Poliquin. Hello, Bud. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, young man?
Sounding all right, my friend. Out in the vineyard, I understand, celebrating 50 years of Jaws. Did they run the mechanical shark around town or in the water? Is that thing still up and about? Is it in some museum in Martha's Vineyard? Where is that shark that didn't work, and therefore we ended up with a great movie in Jaws?
Well, I don't know where that is, but if you remember the show, Sheriff Martin Brody was driving around in like a Jeep kind of thing. I don't know if you remember that. But
I do.
His Jeep is on display, so I actually saw Martin Brody's Jeep. So that's here. The orca, even though it was eaten by the shark and sunk to the bottom of the sea, the boat, that's here. I haven't seen it yet, but it's here on display.
Wow.
And they got a lot of little hoo-ha's going on all over town. So it's pretty cool.
Your favorite character in Jaws, other than the shark?
Well, it's like everybody. I think everybody likes number one guy. I think the old man, Connor Quint.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's. Yeah. I knew you were going to say. A Quint, Captain Quint. There. We're gonna do this, bud.
Yeah.
You are. I know you are in the vineyard, and you're like out on some some jetty or something. Like in as furthest from a possible cell tower as humanly possible. So Boy Green is going to reconnect here with you via a different source to try to make this work. All right. So I'm gonna put you on hold. I'm gonna go out to a quick break. All right. We're gonna come back and we're gonna have you on better audio because we cannot bear you in a well for a half hour. So we're not gonna do Bud in a well. It looked like it was starting good, but Boy Green warned me, hey, he's squawking like this. No, tomorrow he's getting all that digi breakup. So we're going to undigi break him up. So, Bud, I'm hanging up on you right now. Boy Green's gonna work on getting you connected. After many gyrations, we're going to try one more time to bring Bud back in. We completely and utterly fell on our face and failed in trying to adapt new technology to him. So we're going back to his phone line, and we're going to see if we can hold on to him on the phone. And if it starts breaking up, then he's toast, and yeah, I'll never forgive him again. All right. Bud Poliquin, back on the show. Hello, Bud. How are you?
Good morning, James, and how are you?
I'm good. And you sound fine at the moment. So wherever the heck you're standing, don't move. Okay?
Okay.
I mean, don't move. Like, don't even move an inch. If anyone calls you, you just say, I can't. I'm on the radio right now. All right?
All right.
Okay. Welcome back.
Yes,
we talked a little about Jaws to start off our interview, but I do actually want to spend a little bit of time talking to you about radio and about our radio show of 16-plus years before you decided to reimagine yourself. We are kind of having a nice celebratory week. Tomorrow, Jim Boeheim is joining us on the show. Jason Smorl's going to be in studio. Brent Axe is coming in on Wednesday. We've got Anish Shroff is now joining us on Thursday. Old producer Ty Doyle is going to be here on Thursday. So you're missing a whole celebration of not only my exodus from AM radio, but, a kind of a reimaginement of yours in some weird way. So let me ask you this. Case and point question. And I don't think I've ever asked you this question, so let's just do it. When I approached you to do a radio show at that little pub that I still can't remember the name of, I'm going to get it before the week's end. Don't worry, Boy Green. All right? I keep wanting to say like the Salty Dog, but it's not. It's a name like that, okay? That's a place on Long Island that I know. All right, Bud's you would never remember the name of that place we met, right, Bud?
No, I would not.
But you remember that place that we went to. It was like 2 blocks from...
I remember.
You remember. So I sit down with you. We kind of are acquaintances at this point, and I say, hey, dude, listen, I got this idea. What do you think? And I, offer you a little... Hey, it's a little money, too. There's, money in this thing. What do you remember about that? What do you remember about saying yes? And what did you think at the time was going to happen?
Well, what I remember thinking is that, and this is it's not a shot or it's not meant to be funny or anything. But
be
I'm like,
raw. This is what we want. We want honest appraisal. Like, who the heck is this kid? Is he out of his mind? He's like out of my league, and I really didn't want to do it, but he was so convincing I did. Just tell people what the real story is, because I don't even know it, but it ended up being fine. So I'm okay with it if it's trash in the beginning, but feel free to trash me. Go ahead.
No, the only thing is I really didn't know you, and I'm thinking, well, when we're going to do this show? Yeah, when are we going to start? Like tomorrow or the next day?
Yeah, it was like a week.
It was right away, and I'm like, well, is this how this works? I'm not a radio guy. I don't know this guy, and now we're going to be best buddies on the air, kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't know. And then I think, okay, this is how TV, radio, whatever, is how the mass media works.
He's got some skills, maybe. He's got some skills. He's a youngish guy, but he's got some skills. Go ahead.
But I had no way of knowing that. We're eating lunch. We're talking over a hamburger. You got a mouthful of hamburger.
Course.
And I'm trying to say, is this guy serious? And who is this guy? And what are we going to do? Not literally who is this guy.
Do you remember us, by the way?
What?
Do you remember us, by the way, kind of talking? I asked you a question. I remember this part. I don't remember the whole conversation, but I remember this part of the conversation. I kind of said, like, when you think of talk radio, like, what do you listen to? Or what do you gravitate to? What's interesting to you? Do you remember your answer? I do.
Well, I think my answer would be somewhere along the line of I don't listen often, right, or not?
No, that wasn't your answer. No.
What was my answer?
I guess you didn't want to sound like a fool. Thanks for telling me that reality now. No, I don't even know anything about talk radio. I never listen. You didn't come across that way. No, you tried to be Bud the interviewee here. Like, let me impress this guy. What you said to me is, I really like that Tony Kornheiser show. You know, that guy talks about pop culture and movies, and he mixes in sports, and he's a storyteller. And like me, he's in the print business, and I think he's wonderful. Go ahead.
All right. Two things could be true at once. I didn't listen to it a lot, but yes, I did listen to Tony Kornheiser.
Okay.
I mean, those are not mutually exclusive. But yes.
So that was your answer to me, and then I was like, wow, that's awesome, because I love Tony Kornheiser, and I envision the show being kind of similar to that we can just talk about anything.
Yes, I do.
And then do you remember, just kind of going through the timeline, do you remember how bad we sucked when we started the show?
Actually, no.
Wow, good for you, bravo. You actually thought you were good. All right, you sucked. Okay, I'll go pull some of those tapes you sucked. Go on.
Okay. I thought we were pretty good, but I thought we did have some bad shows where whatever we did yesterday didn't click today.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Interesting.
So in fact, I was a little surprised that I liked what we were doing. Now, as it turned out, looking back, I soon learned I was a little bit wooden.
Definitely.
In the front end of our thing.
Yes.
Because
you were wooden, and I'll even say this, Bud, I was a bit wooden, because the only way in the beginning that I could interact with you was kind of like an interview. So I'd say, like, Bud, so last night, OKC wins the NBA Finals. What are your thoughts, and what do you think about the Thunder's performance? And then you'd answer me. And then I'd go, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he was the MVP last night, What did you think of his season and how he played? And then you'd answer. And it was like this Q&A, and I would go home and listen to it and go, this is trash, man. Where's the conversation? It's me asking you, you answer. Me asks you, you answer. All right? And there was
Correct.
no,
That's
give and take, right? Do you remember that?
I do. I do. And for some reason, I thought that was pretty good.
No, it's not.
But
this is why, again, in the beginning, you don't listen to radio and you don't know anything about talk radio. That's where that comes in. Go on.
That's right. But I do remember that as I got the hang of things and as we kind of rounded off the edges, and it became more conversant, and it became more jocular, and it became less, you ask a question, I give an answer. I said, okay, I see where this is going. I see that this is forming, in the mist, so to speak.
Yes.
And I came around. But in the front end, because, again, the role that I had in my life, the role you had in your life, I was very comfortable with, okay, I get it. I'm kind of like, this will sound big-headed, but I'm kind of like the font here of information as I've, my career allowed me to travel around the world and all. And so, okay, great. Now I've got some gravitas that maybe he doesn't have, and that's not a shot.
Bud and the Manchild. I get it, Bud.
I get how this works. But then I realized, okay, the gravitas is nice. It's there when needed.
But I don't need to flaunt it. I don't have
to do it. Yeah, every question and answer doesn't have to be that. But it was good that I had it. If somebody asked a question or that actually we got serious about something, I could reach into my bag of experience and say, well, I was there, and this is what I saw and heard and wrote about, that kind of thing.
Do you remember?
We evolved.
What's that?
I say we evolved.
Yeah, we evolved. Yes, we did.
It's good that we did. Yes.
Do you remember when it started to get good and what made it good? I very much remember. I've told the story many times on air. I don't know if I've ever told it when the two of us were in the studio. Maybe I have. I mean, I've told the story, I know, a bunch of times. Do you remember why it did evolve and it did change more into a conversation? Do you remember what the impetus of that was?
I do not, but you'll probably...
I'm going to tell you. Of course I am. Yeah. I'm going to tell you. The impetus of that was when you invited me one Friday night to come play golf with your friends at Green Lakes. Okay. And then, by the way, I started showing up every Friday after that first week.
Yes, you did.
All right. And the first couple of weeks, as you know, you played with me because I didn't know anybody, and you were like, "Oh, I'll straddle alongside of you here, and we'll walk the fairways together, and I'll make you more comfortable." And then I started meeting some of your buddies, and I was like, "These guys are pretty cool." And then I was like, by the third week, I was like, "Bud, you don't need to play with me anymore. If you want to play with some of the other guys, go for it. I'll play with these other guys." There was no slight. I just was ready to, I was a baby bird that was ready to fly on my own. So I said, I can fly on my own. And you indeed, went off and played with other groups. groups, and sometimes we played together, sometimes we didn't, just depended on how the groups were. And I started playing golf with you. And what happened, Bud, okay, this was the impetus for me that changed the whole show dynamic. And I remember going home and listening to that tape that night after the boom, light bulb went off over my head. So I'm out playing with your buddies in week 3, all right, when you're no longer playing with me and I'm just playing with them and you're not in the group, and I start asking them about you, So how'd you meet Bud? What do you think of him, And I don't remember if this was the nugget, but it was something along these lines. One of your buddies offered, hey, and did you know how cheap he is? And I was like, huh? Really? And he's like, oh, yeah, he's frugal as they come. That man doesn't part with $1, right? And it just became, and I was interested, of course, so I was just like, ooh, tell me more, And they gave me a little story, I was like, ooh, do you have like a specific thing, And I'm just basking in the moment, not even thinking about the radio show. I really wasn't. I was just having a conversation, and it was entertaining. I was not with you, but I was with your buddies, and I was getting insight on you. And then I came in the next day, and, we cracked the mic, I give a little monologue, we start the show up, and then I go, Bud, I got a question for you. And you're like, what's up? And I was like, are you really cheap? And you were like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm asking you a question. Just answer the question. Are you cheap? Are you frugal? Right? Do you not like to part with money? And you were like, well, I guess I can be a little that way. Well, according to your friends, you are a real cheapskate. Right? And then it just became a bit, right? All of a sudden you were like, what? My friend said that about you. Yes, they did. And I'm telling you to a man, I asked 5 other guys after the round, and they all told me the same thing. This isn't just one guy. Right. This is the whole group going, oh, man, yes, let me tell you a story. And I'm sure I shared one of those stories, which was kind of fun and cute, and you're like, oh, yeah, I guess I did do that, And so that became kind of that was like the trigger for me to go, oh, my God, I got to keep digging on this stuff. This is good radio. Like, this works. This is now an exchange of ideas. I get you on the run here a little bit. You got to defend yourself. And all of a sudden, we got a little dialogue going here that I know people in the audience are laughing their patookies about. And I'm like, we're creating some laughs here. I mean, this is a little bit of a Abbott and Costello routine, dare I say, to some extent. And that was the genesis of really how I started to look at the radio show every day. Eventually, I started looking for those idiosyncrasies. I started looking for those places where you said this last month, and now you're saying that. And then I'd say, hey, wait a minute. Last month you said this. Now you're over here. What the heck? And then you'd have to explain yourself. No. I know what you said, and it just became this thing. And I know when people have approached me over the years, even to this day, and talked to me about our relationship on the air, us doing a show together, how much they miss us since we're not doing it together anymore, they all say the same thing, which is, I loved when you guys would bicker. It was so much fun when you guys just got on each other. And Bud would take it. Man, would that guy take it? I was like, I know. That is the blessing that he has the thickest skin in the world, because I have like the thinnest skin in the world. And anytime he came to me, I was like, hey, that's not nice. You're hurting my feelings, And then you were like, all right, well, I don't mean to. But meanwhile, I could say anything to you, and you were just like, whatever. I guess I did. Who cares? Let's move on. It was great.
Well, as far as the cheap thing goes, if I say I'm not cheap, well, automatically you sound so defensive that everybody says, "Oh, he must be cheap because he's
right."
He's taking
saying it not right.
True.
Yeah.
So you just have to sit there because as soon as it's like when did you stop beating your wife? Whatever the answer is, you can't win.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Right?
That's right. So I can't. When you say they say you're cheap, how can I fight that? I mean, that's what they say. I don't think it's true at all. But anyway, you play along with it and you play the role of okay, I guess I'm the cheapskate.
Right.
But no, it's. I'm not saying there's an art to it, but I'm so used to. I've always been kind of the butt of the joke, all right through high school and college and right into my adulthood, that it's just kind of the role I assume. And I enjoy it because it keeps me, egotistically now, kind of keeps me front and center with everybody because if I'm not there, whose chops are they going to bust?
Right.
So right. I volunteer, subliminally volunteer to get my chops busted, which, now I got to come to every golf match and I got to come to every party because I need to be there because they don't have a foil if I'm not there. So
right.
it served me well to have thick skin.
All right. There was a request from a fan for you guys to give a story.
Okay.
And I'll set it up here.
All right, go ahead.
And we could get a perspective from both of you.
Go for it, yeah.
Scooter from Janesville called in and said, when you guys get Bud on the show, I need to hear both of your perspectives on the Temple-Syracuse story that resulted in one of you shaving your head.
I want to pick it up right where we left off. One of our longtime callers, longtime interactors, Scooter, goes way back to us, to the original station and the whole 9 yards, but he was one of our original callers from way back in the day, and he asked a question about the Temple bet that we had. Syracuse football, Paul Pasqualoni's the coach, all right, and Syracuse is gearing up in a season where they've had some struggles to play Temple. And I'll give the start of the story. You tell me if I'm wrong or correct me or your version of the story. But we were talking about it, and you basically came on the air and said, there's no chance, Jim, despite what they've been going through, that they're losing to this Temple team. This Temple team is awful. They're going to win this game. Paul Pasqualoni is not losing to Temple. And I was like, well, they probably won't. But you know what, bud? I mean, they could. And you're like, no, they can't. You were super emphatic. And I was like, well, if you really feel that way, why don't you put your money where your mouth is? And you said, what? What do you want me to do? I said, I don't want money. I actually want to do something else. And then we came up with the idea that we would shave your head. You would shave your head if somehow, some way, Syracuse lost the Temple. And then we did a big event at the Beginning 2 out in East Syracuse, a wonderful bar there, Buffalo Bills bar. And we had a horse trainer, a horse groomer come out and shave your head, which was great. He was one of our listeners. That's my recollection of the basics of it. Go ahead. You want to enhance or embellish or change anything?
I think, was it also hooked up to St. Baldrick's? That wouldn't be. That would have been
No, it had nothing to do with St. Baldrick's. No, nothing.
Okay. All right, well, the other thing is, for people who don't remember, once upon a time, Rutgers and Temple were laughingstocks. Now, they've had a couple little moments here and there in the interim where they've had some decent years and so on. But back then, if you lost to Temple or Rutgers, I mean, that was like losing to a high school team.
Yes, it was.
They were wretched.
Yep.
And, again, you were right. My thing was, well, yeah, Syracuse isn't the Green Bay. They're not the Green Bay Packers, but they're not going to lose to a high school team either.
Right.
So, yeah, my memory is that not only was I so sure of it, you can shave my head, but you could shave my eyebrows.
Yes, you did say that.
And somebody said, don't do that.
Yeah, because you look crazy, and it takes a while to grow back.
They may not grow back.
Yeah.
They may not grow back. So I said, well,
you look like an idiot the rest of your life.
Yeah. So I said, God might want to screw around with me and let Temple win. So I said, okay, the eyebrows are off the table, but the head, sure, I don't care. It's not going to happen. So what could possibly go wrong?
I'll offer up my
here?
hair. Who cares, right?
Yeah, that's all right. Well, sure enough, just as you say, Temple somehow wins the game. I don't remember if it was at the end or they were in control the whole game. I have no idea how the game went.
Yeah, I don't remember the tenor of the game, but they won. It wasn't like a last-second field goal or something. I know that.
The Owls had more points at the end of the day.
And you know what, Bud? Just on the charity front, what we did actually, my recollection, I think, is correct. We raised money for the old Newsboys. The charity that was attached with the
maybe
news.
That was
that's who we raised money for in that thing. So we did it. It was a charge to come into the event, and it was very well attended. And then remember, we were asking, do we have any hairdressers out there or anything? And this guy calls in, who was a regular listener of the show, and he says, "Well, I'm not exactly a hairdresser, but I think I could do the job." I said, "Well, what do you do? I mean, let's hope you're not like a steel worker or something. Like, can you handle a razor or whatever that you're going to do this with?" And he said, "Well, yes, I can." And you know why? I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because I groom horses. I shave and groom horses." And I was like, "That works. Fantastic." I was all over it. I was like, "This guy's going to be great, man. This guy doesn't even work with human beings. We're going to have a whole lot of fun with this." And he goes, "I even have the device, I have the shavers and everything." I was like, "Ooh, and if they've been used with the horses, this is fantastic. Going to have like horse stuff in Bud's hair. This is going to be great." Is just the whole thing was just added to the specter, I guess, of the event in some way. And he did come out and he did do it. I don't remember his name. I wish I could remember. I wish I could remember that guy's name, but I can't remember.
Well, let me ask you, boys. Do you remember the year of the game?
Who?
So, because I have the history, and obviously Syracuse lost, so I have it's one of these two things that I have in front of me. If I told you the score or something from that, would it hit?
No,
I don't even know if
remember
it was home or away, but I do know this, that I think they lost 2 years in a row to one or the other.
They did.
Yeah. It's every other year. I have that here. So it happened twice. So they played in 2002, 2004. Both of those were losses by Syracuse. I was on the road.
Okay.
They lost 34-24 in 2004, and they lost 17-16 in 2002.
It was the first one. They had not lost to Temple, and Bud said they're not going to lose. Yeah. I think it was the first one. Okay. You know what? Scooter would probably know better than us.
The interesting thing is that sounds like a close game, Lerch. If it's 17-16, that sounds like it must have been something close at the end then.
Yeah, that second game does sound close.
Yeah, but also could have been that because they'd lost, they're never going to lose again.
Could have been.
They're not going to lose
Correct.
a couple twice.
It could have been.
I don't know what the pregame nonsense.
You
was,
might be
but
right. It might have been because they had lost it 2 years before, and I was like, Bud, if they lost it, they're not losing to that team again. There's no chance. It might have been. That might have been. You might be right.
2004. It looks like.
So 2004 sounds like the right year. I think Bud's right. I think Bud's right about that.
And I think I have some hazy recollection that there was a basketball game sometime around there. Was that when were these games? They had to have been in November, maybe.
Yes. So here it is. The 34-24 loss of Syracuse Temple was Saturday, November 13th.
And what about the other one?
And then the 2002 was in October. It's October 12th, 2002.
Then I think it may have been the November game.
Which would be the second game, which again speaks to Bud saying it's not happening twice. Lightning ain't striking twice, basically, for that loss.
I think I went to the basketball game, whatever that would have been, the next day or two or three or the week later, whatever it was.
That's
and Boeheim made some crack about my head. And so I didn't go undercover. I still had to go out and do things. And I remember I showed up.
So it's definitely 2004 then.
I think you didn't look bad in a crew. I thought you were okay. You could have just inducted right into the Navy. Would have been fine.
I will tell you that the part of the story that I did not know was that Bud's like, shave off the eyebrows too, and they're like, "Whoa! If you do that, they might not grow back."
Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't hear about that.
That is funny. Yeah.
Well, but we raised a couple of bucks. That was a nice thing.
We did. It was a nice get. That was a really nice get.
It was a good cause. The hair goes, but the dollars grow. So that was good.
We're going to have Boeheim tomorrow. He's coming on at 10:30. So do you have a Boeheim story maybe you'd like to share? And is there anything you want me to ask Jim Boeheim tomorrow? Because I'm sure that you will come up. So the question is there anything you want to say or for me to ask Jim Boeheim?
I'd have to ponder that one. I mean, I have nothing, I have no, nothing to say, right,
okay.
You've
said it all.
Here's what I will say. Okay, here's what I will say. And this is the truth. When I first came to Syracuse from San Diego, it wasn't that I was full of myself, but I had confidence in myself.
Okay.
And I really believed that I would be warmly embraced by particularly Jake Krauthamel and Jim Boeheim.
Okay.
Dick McPherson, I really had to get to know him. So he wasn't really part of my thing, but I thought for sure Jake Krauthamel and Jim Boeheim, because Dick McPherson was still sort of developing his aura,
Okay. Right.
And I thought, okay, these two guys, they're gonna embrace me because they're gonna say, wow, we got this big shot, not a big shot, but a guy who kind of knows what he's doing. After all, he's coming in from San Diego and so on. So I had a confidence. Somebody might say I had an arrogance. I don't think it was. I just had a confidence. Well, that confidence was quickly shattered because neither Jim nor Jake, took any kind of. They didn't go out of their way to welcome me, to say hello, nothing like that, which is fine. There's no beef here because I replaced Arnie Burdick, who was kind of a legend. On either you liked him or you didn't, but nobody would doubt that he was a legend. And, I thought, well, I'd have some gravitas that they would recognize and really, smile and shake my hand and say, welcome to town kind of a thing.
Yeah, right, sure.
I get zero.
Zero welcome,
Zero. And okay, that's fine. Now they got some, they're a little flinty in terms of their personalities.
Which did that perhaps affect your early stories of the Orange?
Maybe
they want to be flinty? I can be a little flinty too. Don't want to recognize my gravitas? I don't have to recognize their gravitas. Yada yada. That's the way it goes.
So anyway, I think the early part of it was kind of like a mating dance, and nobody was really doing much. And then there was a stretch where, quite frankly, I don't know if people even knew this, but Boeheim and I we didn't even talk to each other, and that lasted for years. But I never really needed to talk to him because I was always at the press conferences, and he wasn't particularly welcoming and so on. Blah 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 blah. And I think people took from that a thing that we, disliked each other. Hated is too strong a word. And I don't think I ever would say that to anybody. That we had our little tete-a-tetes here and there, but big deal. And I think by the end, I mean the last 10 years or so, I thought we got along great myself. I mean, he always, would pick up my calls or return my calls.
We'll see what he has to say about that tomorrow.
I thought we got along. I thought we got along pretty well, And I would go to his office and we'd sit and we'd chat, and invariably he'd have a sandwich at his desk, and we'd sit there and he'd eat and I'd talk, and he'd answer, and then I'd go away. So I think I would be surprised, and who knows, even if he felt this way, I don't know that he'd admit it, but I'd be surprised if he was a jerk. I didn't like him. I think he'd say, he's an all right guy. You know, so people who think there was I'm not a rival, the animosity.
You'd
there
say
was
no,
a feud.
that didn't exist.
There was a feud. I would say, from my point of view, I had no feud or animosity with him. But I will admit that there was a time. Let's say you broke it into thirds. The first third, kind of like nothing there, kind of a iciness or nothing.
Right.
The middle third, okay, nobody's talking to each other. And the last third, I thought we got along great.
Okay.
So that's how I remember.
So your relationship with Jim Boeheim, break it up into thirds. I'll ask him about the thirds theory tomorrow.
Yeah.
And Jake, I think, would be the same way. I thought Jake got me and I got him.
Lukewarm. Great.
Yeah. And, I think it's a matter of everybody getting to know each other. It took a fair amount of time.
Yep.
But I think I got to know them, I think, and I think they got to know me, I think, and we all lived with each other. Did we exchange Christmas cards? No. Did we play golf? No. But again, when I came here, I honestly thought that that's what we'd be doing. I thought that we'd be I thought we'd play golf together, and I thought we'd have a different kind of relationship, a relationship that I watched other people on the West Coast have with coaches and owners and general managers, including me.
Right.
It just was weird that when I came with this, of course, they were all professionals too, professional pro sports. When I was out there, the coaches, the GMs, the owners mixed and mingled more easily with the media. And Jim Boeheim, at least with me, and Jake, at least with me, had no interest in mingling with me, which is fine. It took me time to get used to that because the world I came from was you'd go to lunch with these guys. You'd have a beer or two after a game with these guys. You'd do things with these guys, and I'm talking from ownership to GM to coach, never mind players, but completely different world when I got here. And that's fine. Different worlds. That's 3,000 miles apart or whatever the distance across the country is. And different cultures, different attitudes. Those were pros. These are college guys. Different. Took me a while to understand that. But once I did, I was all right.
Well, Bud, I just want to tell you, I know the question/story I'm going to ask or go back and forth with Jim Boeheim tomorrow, and it's this, and I just don't know if you have anything that you want to make sure that I put in this, and it's just this, about the golden era, quote-unquote, where you picked after the 25-0 start to the season.
The critique article that you wrote about their supposed, bad stretch
of time, and you picked exactly after the 25-0 streak in the middle of his season, and then picked to sometime in the future.
Yeah. He didn't like your selective stat that you waited and didn't include the 25-0. You picked it up from that first loss after the 25-0 to the current and said, boy, this is an awful stretch. And he was like, hold on a minute. It balances the scales a little bit if you throw that 25-0, which, by the way, was part of that season, Bud, in front of that thing. But you didn't elect to do that, and he didn't like it.
And as Jim Boeheim does, he brought it up of his own accord at the press conference and got it off his chest.
As he often does.
And then told you, and then he said, you can't do that. And I just remember hearing on the YouTube, wherever it was, oh, yes, I can, because I
just did.
And then it was this funny back and forth, so I'm definitely going to get his perspective on that. Is there anything I should add to that story?
No, but see, I got where he thought you can't do that, and I said just what you said. I said, well, yes, I can, and yes, I did. I just did. So what do you mean I can't do that? Yeah, of course I can do it, and I did. Now he would say it was unfair because I think, and again, my memory fades, but the launching point or whatever, they played Pittsburgh on the road, and that either ended this streak at 25-0, or started.
That was the latest win. It was Tyler Ennis buzzer beater. He hits that. They go to 25-0, and you pick game 26.
Yeah, I said, okay, ever since
from this date to this date, look at they stink.
It was
golden age my butt. Is what you said, basically.
From the time Ennis makes that shot until that day of whatever I wrote the story.
Yeah,
I'm making this up completely. Mm-hmm. They were 15-10 or something. I have no idea what the numbers were.
Right.
And he says, well, you can't do that. Well, of course you can do that. That's how when anybody starts talking about a streak, whether it's a good streak or a bad streak, a winning streak or a losing streak, they pick a date. And that date started the winning streak. That date started the losing streak, or whatever you're talking about. I mean, it happens all the time. So I don't know why he was so offended that I chose the game after Ennis's shot, why that was offensive. But guess what? It's sports, especially with what's going on in the world. Anybody that's too crazy about sports, passionately angry, I don't get it. Now, I know Jim would get far more passionately angry about things than I ever would, but then it's his career, it's his livelihood, all that. It was my livelihood, too, my career, but I wasn't as invested as he would be as a coach. And though I understood that, I still didn't understand why he or others got so crazy mad at what goofballs like me would write. It just didn't make sense to me. He has and continues to have all the money, all the power, all the accolades. He's in the Hall of Fame, et cetera, et cetera. And why he would care too much about what some clown writes in the paper, I never understood that. Although I said, that's kind of cool that you can get him so upset, even though, if I was in his position, maybe it's a different personality, and somebody wrote something like that, I wouldn't even think about it. It wouldn't even faze me, because I'd say, I'm headed to the Hall of Fame. I've just won a national championship. I'm a pretty big deal in this town, as Will Ferrell said in San Diego.
Right.
And so I'm not going to let you, bother me. I'm an elephant. You're just a little fly on my tail. I'll shoo you away. So
right.
I wouldn't treat the person like that, but in my head I'd say, I don't care.
All right.
Anyway.
Last thing, but you got to give me the 1 minute version, and I know it's not going to be easy to give the 1 minute version, but one of our best early stories was the time that I think it was Chicago, you correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes the details are a little foggy, it was so long ago, when you decided to go across to the hotel hot tub, and you ended up without any clothes on in a hot tub with the ice skater Brian Boitano, who I told you I think he's homosexual, and you were in a hot tub with him, and did that bother you in any way? We just had a fun, really kidding around. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
First,
all right?
First I was at Minneapolis.
So how did that happen? Yeah, it was Minneapolis. Go ahead. Quickly tell that story. I think that was a really funny story.
It's a short story, because I don't even know how it happened either.
Right.
I'm in Minneapolis. I'm at the Super Bowl. For whatever reason, there's a break in my day, a break in the action of what my duties were, and I go into the Minneapolis hotel where I was staying, and maybe I ran in the treadmill or did something, and now, I think I'll go in the hot tub. Now, I have no idea. I really don't. I don't know why I thought or why it was a clothing optional thing. I don't know if it was or wasn't. I don't know why or whatever. And so suddenly...
Did you not have your swimsuit with you and you just jumped in, or did you have your swimsuit and said, "No, I'm dropping this, going in,
Jimmy boy,
raw, baby"?
I swear to God, if I remembered why, I would tell you.
But you did.
I don't know.
Nonetheless, you did.
I did.
So there you are. You're in the hot tub. And
I'm in the tub all by myself. And the next thing I know, I'm joined in the hot tub. And he's optional too. So
he just decides to drop and jump.
Or maybe even said no clothing allowed. I don't know. And next thing I know, there's me and Brian Boitano sitting in the hot tub. And we start talking. And he was a very nice guy.
I'm sure he was. He's a very nice man.
We were talking about Katarina Witt. We were talking about either he and Witt were headed to Syracuse for a show, or they just come from Syracuse.
Wow.
And he had nice things to say about Syracuse. He might have been making it all up. I don't know. But we had a lovely chat. And, only later I'm thinking, that was kind of odd. Why was I in a tub?
Think about a random happening,
Brian Boitano,
Yes.
Now, if it was just anybody else, maybe it's less of a story. But because it was Brian Boitano, it becomes a little more interesting. But hand to God, I have no idea. As I look back on it, even I'm saying that's weird. That's odd.
But it happened.
But I don't know how. And I don't drink and I don't do drugs. So it wasn't like I was high or drunk or anything. I don't know how it happened. I don't know why it happened.
Here's the last nugget.
All right, very quickly, please.
Brian Boitano came out as gay publicly in December of 2013. So he is.
So yes, I know that. Right. I kind of knew that at the time.
Super Bowl
right.
was.
Right.
I think the Super Bowl was in the 90s. I think.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was definitely before he came
ago.
out, but I was very suspicious, and you didn't. You were like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "I don't know. The clues are there, but maybe you overlooked the clues. Whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Again,
absolutely.
But I just think it was just a fabulous, interesting, what a random meeting with someone.
And
yeah,
I'd
that was
say
good.
precious
It was
few
good.
sports writers have done what I did
Right.
that day.
We can confirm.
We all have a story that we
Yes.
probably is a unique story just
Yes.
to us, and
Yes.
that's one of them
Right.
for me.
Okay. All right, we got to let you go because we got another guest. We pushed him back a little bit, but we want to try and squeeze him in before the end of the show. So, Bud, great talking to you. Bask out there in the Martha's Vineyard world. We'll be basking here for the next week, and please don't call in unless your cell phone signal is much better. Okay.
All righty, boys. It's been a delight as always.
All right, and we'll talk to Jim. We'll talk to Jim Boeheim about all that stuff tomorrow. See if he agrees with anything that you said. Probably not. All right. Thank you, buddy.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, have a great week. All right, there he is, Bud Poliquin, his last brunch with Bud on the AM airwaves here at the Score 1260. Sean Deveney, next. All right, time to talk all things NBA. We appreciate them, letting them be a little late today. We were in a bit of a long-term discussion there with Bud, who we had so much trouble with. Supposed to be 10:30, we had him at 11. But let us welcome in our NBA insider to talk one more time about this NBA season, which has been finished, as they say, the OKC Thunder, our champs. Let's talk with our friend Sean Deveney from Athlon Sports. What's up, Sean? How are you?
I'm doing well, Lerch. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. I like the odds of the Knicks next year. I like our odds already.
Well,
already
before we
pushing
get
up the odds with
Yeah.
all these injuries.
Sean, what are the latest odds on finding a new head coach for the New York Knicks?
About them 1 million to 1. Is the answer to that.
Any updates?
You're already raining on his parade. He had one moment to say,
I know.
the Knicks might be all right, and you had to remind him
Sorry.
that, you're going to Mike Brown, Taylor Jenkins, or now James Borrego, perhaps.
Oh, wow.
Retread Central there with the Knicks. It looks like.
Can't we please just talk to Michael Malone? Can we have a conversation? I mean, can't we all get along
It's like they're
here?
going out of their way. I don't understand why it's like they're going out of their way
Not to talk to him.
to say no, we're not hiring him, and I don't understand that. I really don't.
Either. I really don't get it. And I don't want to hear about the similarities between him and Tibbs. They're two different people. All right, go ahead, boy.
Yeah, and the thing I wanted to ask you, Sean, is there someone outside the box we're not thinking of? A recently retired coach, someone that just left the game maybe early that could be in? Because some of these names we talk about are fine. They're fine, but the New York Knicks need more than fine. There's a ton of pressure on the line. Is there some name outside the box that could possibly make sense here for the Knicks?
No, I mean, I think the ones that it would probably you'd look at a college coach, and those have all politely declined. Whether it's Jay Wright or Dan Hurley or perhaps even Calipari. That was never going to happen. But you can look at that. Rick Pitino. You could look at that as maybe if something's going outside the box, and then that's where you'd go. But no, I mean, it does not seem to be any such name out there. For a while after, Mike D'Antoni, for instance, after he retired, he was connected to every job. He didn't take any of them, but he was connected to every job. There was a guy out there who you could say, all right, this would be a little bit of a different hire. There isn't anybody like that now. There really isn't. So, so it goes back to what we've been saying about this, which is, why did you feel the need to fire Tom Thibodeau with what he's accomplished? If you had nothing, it's not like you had, all right, this is where we're going.
Right.
There was just nothing, no plan B there.
And is that a clear? And do you buy into the story? Because to me, it's so rumor-esque because the Knicks don't talk. So now you got to dig into the insiders and hope that their insight is right, that they've got good sources here. Is this the work of James Dolan? Do you really, truly think it is? Or is this Leon Rose having some real slippage here and making a decision? He's been in control, as far as we know, for the last bunch of years, putting this roster together. Did he make a mistake here? Is this his mistake? Or is this the boss saying, listen, this is what we got to do?
No, you're right. They don't talk, so we don't know, and they haven't addressed this the way most organizations would. But yeah, so I think what you're left with is kind of putting the pieces together, where it's definitely a Dolan influenced decision. But the question is, if Leon Rose didn't want it, why didn't he deflect it the way he's been doing for the last 5 years? And I think that this was something where there was sort of an agreement. Coming into the playoffs, if we don't make the finals, we're making a change at the top, and Leon Rose kind of saying, okay, let's I'll agree to that, and of course they didn't make the finals, and here you go. I mean, so I think that's the best guess in terms of reading the tea leaves in terms of how this went down.
And I still think if you're Rose, even as it ends, the way it ends, I still think you go back to the boss's office and say, I know what I said before, but it doesn't make any sense, and we don't have anybody else lined up. We're going to look like fools here. I'm trying to avoid us having a PR nightmare and stepping back because of our coach, because the guys that are available we don't really love, and it's going to be really hard to poach someone else without giving up major assets, if at all. We're going to have to get permission to speak to any of those guys. I mean, come on, put two and two together, and let's just stick with this at least for another year or half season. Maybe somebody else appears on the radar. Somebody comes available that's not available right now, and then we can pivot and change. But I guess that Rose didn't do that.
And the thing that doesn't make sense, no matter what, no matter how you look at them, where you point the finger, is at some point during the playoffs, then why aren't you doing some feelers? Why aren't you saying, hey, we're thinking about possibly making a change? What would you think about? Do you think that this guy could get out of his contract? There's a lot of backroom talk that can happen before you fire your coach, so that when you get to 3 days before the draft, you're not still looking for a coach. But that's where the Knicks are. They didn't do any of that background work.
All right, let's talk about the NBA Finals, Sean. So OKC wins it, 7 games. Of course, the devastating injury in the first quarter to Therese Halliburton, who was looking so good in that game. It really made you think like maybe Indiana can pull off the upset here. Just give me your thoughts on the finals as a thing, and anything you want to say about Halliburton. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I mean, great series. Obviously two teams that were pretty well matched up. Different styles, but and both had their moments where they forced their style on the other team. It's just Oklahoma City was able to do it more. I think obviously the home court advantage played out. Turned out to have a pretty big impact. For Indiana to come in and win that game 6, I think was huge for them. That was something that we talked and pretty much everybody I don't think anybody really expected the Pacers to win that game. You really saw the difference that they were able to make. The Halliburton thing, and that's another thing we talked about. Is the calf injury is the predecessor of an Achilles. It's just something we've seen time and again, and it's what a heartbreaker. And you could tell. There was a few plays after Halliburton got hurt, and I was kind of thinking, all right, well, maybe they can still. And then you had Kason Wallace kind of completely trapped McConnell against the half court line and force a turnover, and you really saw right there, like that's the difference. Like there's going to be enough plays like that, and there were in the end. The turnovers were just too much for the Pacers, so not having Halliburton out there was really crucial for them.
So, do we just stick you always have to say, with all due respect, and I know this is soon, but do you just stick a fork in the Pacers like a lot of people have done for the Celtics? You lose one of your best players or the best player on your team, and then with this Achilles injury, it normally takes a year plus. Is that a fair thing to do at this point, Sean?
Yeah. I mean, they can't win without him. I think there's no question about that. Which is, again, that's this was really looking like a team, especially with the way things were opening up for next year. This was looking like a team that could be back in this position next season. So, I mean, I think, without Halliburton, forget it. I mean, it's just not. They're a very mediocre team, and it does raise the question of, okay, what do they do here? What do they do? Because they've got Miles Turner who's going to be a free agent. I think Benedict Mathurin is an interesting case. We saw at times looks fantastic, at times, looks completely out of control. So what do they do? They've got to pay him or not pay him. So, he could be a trade candidate in all this, and they could have sort of like a mini rebuild for when Halliburton comes back. That's a possibility there for Indiana.
Yeah, I tell you what, Sean, and I'm just going to say this as a Knicks fan. I don't want this easy path thing. I don't want there to be a little asterisk, if we were to win the East next year. Like, oh, well, they won because Tatum's gone, this guy's gone. I want to do it for real. I want to walk up that ladder to the top and take it, baby. I'm sorry. I'm picky about my championships. I want it done the right way, Boy Green. And that's my mantra.
Lerch. Do you remember what they said about the Celtics 2 years ago? Do you remember what they said?
I don't.
No, that's the point. Everyone said that the
Exactly.
Celtics had this garbage path to the playoffs, and they had this dominant run. But who did they play? Who did they play? It's not that I don't care. You don't even remember.
All right.
So
Look,
the narrative there was going
I suppose
on
if I'm in the
matter.
Canyon of Heroes and the streamers are dropping on my head, I really won't give
There
up
you
late, as they
go.
say. Okay, I really.
Now find a head coach.
Championship that the Spurs won. One of the Spurs championships, I think it was 2003, the first one in that dynasty. And I wrote a thing, and it was on the cover of Sporting News. The headline on the cover of Sporting News was "The Accidental Champions," and I got so much hate from people in San Antonio because I was putting an asterisk on their champion because like Dirk had they had like all these injuries in the Western Conference that kind of made it really cleared the path for them, and they were so mad at me for years. Every time I would see Popovich, he'd say, "Accidental champions." It's like I didn't write the headline for one thing, but yeah, it is funny how people do not want you to rain on their parades that way.
The life of the reporter, baby. Sometimes you get called on your stuff, and you got to live it down for years and years and years. Hey,
yeah, exactly.
I wish we had more time. I want to squeeze in one or two more quick ones. Kevin Durant and the trade.
Yeah.
Obviously, that went down over the weekend. Give us your quick thoughts on winner, loser. Was this a trade that had to happen? Is this good for Houston, bad for Houston? Give us a quickie.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are down on the package that the Suns got. I'm not. I think, Jalen Green's a really good player. They got the number 10 pick. He's 37 years old. He's going to help Houston, no question, but he's 37 years old, and ultimately Phoenix couldn't get that massive, 5 draft pick package because nobody's going to give that up for a 37-year-old guy. So I thought Phoenix did as well as they could given the situation. They should have traded him a year ago, but given where they were, I thought they did pretty well.
I thought they did amazing.
Yeah, me and Lurch felt the same way. I went, wow.
I love
look
Phoenix.
at what they got.
For where Phoenix is right now,
yes.
I loved where they are, and they got one really good already, I think, somewhat proven player.
Green, yeah, he led the team in
another
scoring
guy
in the
that's
regular
definitely a role player of some sort. He's going to play some minutes, and then a chance at a lottery here with a number 10 pick, and then a bunch of twos that you never know what they're going to turn into. We were just talking about Jokic was a second-round pick. Draymond Green, Manu Ginobili. Great players have come out of the second round. Even if they hold those picks and don't trade up with them, you never know what they're going to turn into, and they got a bunch of swings here at a home run. We'll see if they can hit one.
Yeah, and Dylan Brooks is a very easy guy to trade, so he's somebody who they could definitely turn into a first-round pick, if the season goes haywire.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And
Sean, listen. Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
Yeah,
quickly.
last one real quick. Every time someone wins a championship, we say dynasty, dynasty, dynasty. People are immediately saying that with the Thunder. Is this a legitimate conversation, or is this just more sports talk that we always do?
It depends how you define a dynasty. They've got like 2 years before the apron stuff really kicks in on them. So if they can win 3 in a row, I don't think anybody would say it's not a dynasty. Right. But they'd have to be healthy. They'd have to have, as we saw with the Celtics, they'd have to have everything go right in order for that to happen. But within 2-3 years, you're going to have, they're going to be facing the same financial pressures that everybody else is, and they're not going to be able to keep this group together.
Yeah, welcome to the new world order. All right, Sean. Well, look, this is your last appearance on AM radio with us here at the Score 1260. I can't even tell you how much we have loved having you, but this relationship is not going to end. I know you're going to still do stuff with us in the digital world, so we're really looking forward to that. We've got free agency. We've got the NBA draft. We got all kinds of things, so we'll be dialing up your little number there, sir, to give you some more pub here as one of our guys. But thank you for all this time that you spent with us here in the AM radio world.
Honestly, guys, it's always the highlight of my week, and maybe that says something about the quality of my weeks, but it's always great to it's great to come on with you guys. I appreciate it.
The backhanded compliment is always the best compliment, Sean. I don't mind that at all. You just keep on trucking, as they say. You just keep on coming at me, brother. I got plenty more in his gas tank.
Yeah, that's it. Love it.
Thank you, Sean Deveney. We'll talk to you again in the digital world. Looking forward to it, my friend.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, there he is, Sean Deveney, Athlon Sports, our NBA insider, and one of our all-time faves. I love
Sean.
talking with Sean. He's just a really salted-to-the-earth good guy, and he's got great stories, and he's very, very plugged in to the NBA world. I love his opinions on things, and I think he has a really, really nice perspective on the NBA, even when he's fighting with coaches like Greg Popovich. Who cares? That's the whole thing. You got to stick your neck out there sometimes, and sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. Regardless, sometimes people don't like you for it. It's okay, I know there are a few people out there that don't like me all that much. And all the things I've said in 23 years, Some of them I might wish I could take back, but it's too late.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, closing out 2 fun-filled hours here on a Monday. Boyd Green, final thoughts, if you have any.
Well, Lerch, you said you're going to set us up for the rest of the week.
Oh, yeah, rest of the week. Yeah. Well, I'll do that very, very quickly because the closing music is playing. Jason Smorrell, Jim Boeheim, Brian Drake 2 in studio. Boeheim will be on the phone with us tomorrow, 10, 10:30, 11. Lisette and Axe locked in for Wednesday. Ty Doyle and Anish Shroff locked in for Thursday. And Jamie the FedEx guy is going to stop in on Friday. Tom Gozlowski, a blast from the past, will be here Friday as well. I'll get you on the others tomorrow. Enjoy the week, folks. It's going to be a blast. We'll see you. Thanks for listening.